Listen, I got a new camera, all right? Don't make it weird. Just pretend like I knew what I was doing all along, all right? Cool? Cool. Now let's get to it.
Y'all ready?
Welcome back, guys. T-Fade here. Ask T-Fade anything. Episode 2. Not that it matters, because who cares? I got a new camera and a new mic. How's it sound? We good? I'm trying to level up my content creation here, people. So level up the like button. Hit the damn like button and share and subscribe and all that stuff. So let's get into this. Anybody recognize where that's from? All right, Brian Lloyd says, how do I gain more low-end output of my 6th order wall? It's kind of a complicated question, but I'll tell you one way: add power. That's easy. I mean, that's sort of the go-to response, but in general, you're probably going to want to tune lower. If you want more low-end extension, you got to tune lower, brother. I don't know what to tell you. That's the point of ports, is to augment low-end extension. So if you want more low-end, tune lower. James Mayberry says, what is your actually has 2 questions here. What is your favorite low-weight subwoofer? My favorite low-weight subwoofer's got to be the Encore. The thing, I guess it depends on what you mean by low weight, because I'm a fan of smaller subs to begin with. So I really like 2.5-inch coil subs. So, and I consider those, I guess those would be low weight. But if you mean like actually designed to be lower weight, then the Encore, the Amper Audio Encore is just, it's insane. It's such a great sub, even if it wasn't only 20 pounds or whatever it was. But it is, it happens to be only 20 pounds or so, and it's just a friggin' fantastic sub. I wish I could put the Critical Mass UL12 on there, because the thing is supposedly really that good, but I've never heard it, never owned one, so I can't recommend it. But yeah, absolutely my favorite 2.5-inch coil sub, definitely the FU 750. My favorite low weight sub, Amper Audio Encore, all day long. He also asks, with options trades, is it feasible to grab long call on something that's got bullish sentiment and cheap weekly put using your put gains to add more on your call options? Or is it best just to sell the call and buy back lower? That doesn't make much sense to me. If you're bullish on something, yeah, so being long means you think it's going, or you're buying it. If you're going long, you're buying it. If you're going short, that means you're selling it, or you think it's going to go lower. So grab a long call on something that's bullish and cheap weekly puts. I don't suggest buying weeklies at all. They call them FDs for a reason, dude. It is gambling. 100% buying scratchers. Like, you might as well buy scratch off tickets if you're buying weeklies. You can sell them. That's better. But buying weeklies, you might as well be buying scratchers. Best just to sell the call and buy back lower. If you want to buy weeklies, make a little profit, sell them, add to your position, that's cool. But I'm not exactly sure what you're asking here, brother, but let's take away from this question, don't buy weeklies. Terrible idea. Big Mike McDonald says, what's up, Fade? What's up, Mike? Running a bunch of subs and a bunch of power. Wondering if I should go with some 4-inch and dome tweeters, or just 4 bullets. Would a DSP be the decision maker in this choice? Are you asking to go? But are the options dome tweeters or bullets? That's what I was trying to get out of my mouth. if the options are dome tweeters or bullets, then I mean, that's tough. I would say bullets in this instance, even though I hate bullet tweeters. But if you're running 4-inch mids, then you can get away with bullet tweeters for sure, for the added sensitivity, efficiency, whatever. If you were running larger woofers or voice woofers or voice speakers, I would say you might want to go with a dome. But since you're running 4-inch mids, get the bullets, man. Go nuts, you know. And yeah, you should always absolutely have a DSP. I recommend everyone to have a DSP. They're so cheap these days. There's really no reason for you not to have not to have a DSP. Like, you can get into the Dayton for $150. Like, it's a no-brainer. I don't understand why nobody. Even if you don't use the time alignment, like let's just say you have a mess of speakers left and right, and like there's no way you're gonna get any sort of image. To hell with the time alignment. Just use the EQ. It's a ton of EQ. So get a DSP. Big Mike, go with the bullets, and yes, get a DSP. All right. Andrew Peters says, sometimes the looking at WinISD, the response curve looks like it's going to sound terrible, but in practice it sounds great. A good example is a 4th order bandpass. It looks like you're going to get a terrible response below tuning, but that doesn't happen. Is this an issue with limitation software or something I'm doing wrong? If it's a software, is there something better? So this is actually a question or an issue or an excuse that I hear box designers making all the time, that software doesn't work. Software is not good enough. They want you, no offense to box designers out there, if you don't feel like designing your own box, or you don't have the chops, or you don't trust yourself or whatever, pay someone to do it. That's fine. They got to make a living too. But the whole thing about experience, it's just math, people. It's just math. Like physics, we've known how loudspeakers work for 100 years. You know what I'm saying? Like physics and math hasn't changed a whole lot since then. So the software that we're using today has been understood for 100 years. There's not been any big breakthrough in how loudspeakers behave between 100 years ago and now. Like, if you do this happens. It's just science, it's physics, it's acoustics. With that said, there are some factors at play with designing a box and interpreting the graph that WinISD or whatever other software will spit out. I made a video on this the other day, and the biggest reason why you can get away with a big old mountainous peak with a 4th order or a single reflex bandpass is because of cabin gain. So a lot of guys will design this big mountainous peak of a single reflex bandpass or a 4th order, and it still sounds good on music. And that's because first of all, it's a sealed box, so it's tough to make a sealed box sound terrible, but the cabin gain is picking up the slack for a peaky response. So let's say your cabin starts to pick up your cabin gain at like 50 hertz, and your 4th order is tuned at 50 hertz or whatever. You're going to start rolling off at 50 or 55 hertz, whatever your cabin gain is. Well, your cabin picks up at 12 dB per octave, and your box is rolling off at 12 dB per octave. So and WinISD doesn't take cabin gain into account. So when it looks like it's doing this number, like falling off a cliff in WinISD, it's actually getting caught by your cabin and picking it up and making a flat response, or relatively flat, below resonance in a 4th order. So that's why you can get away with a mountainous peak with a bandpass or a 4th order, because your cabin is picking you up. So you should. I made a video about cabin gain, and there's a program, Speakerbox Lite, that will actually put your cabin gain in there. You can tell it where your resonance starts, and it'll show you cabin gain with the response, so you can kind of get an idea of what it's going to sound like in the car. So, sorry, I've been rambling on for that one for a minute, but yeah, check out that other video. I'll try to remember to put a card for it up there. But yeah, that's why you do need a little experience with implementing these box designs. But yeah, man, just learn how to design your own box. It's not that it's really not all that hard. I'll make a video about it someday, I guess. Steve Herman says, can I win SQ with a wall of compact Neos and no interior door speakers? Well, you had me on the first part. You probably could with a wall of compacts. No interior door speakers? No, that's not gonna happen. Sorry, Steve. Get some speakers. Kevin Guthrie says, that's a badass wall you're in front of. Would you do a show about that wall sometime, explain all the various equipment you have? Yeah, let me know down in the comments if you guys want me to go over this wall back here, because honestly, that wall is probably only about half of the crap I got stuffed in here. My location currently is somewhere in Mexico, by the way. Let's see. Passive radiator. I have two 8-inch Rockford HX2s. I'm going to build a sealed box, but I want to add 2 passive radiators. Can you help me figure out what size I need? Sure, man. So it's not a sealed box. If you add a passive radiator, it becomes a base reflex box. This is a common misconception with passive radiators, in that people think you just build a sealed box, slap a passive radiator in it, and you're done. That's not really how it works. Like, it does make the box smaller, but only because you don't have to account for port displacement. So if you need to build a 2 cubic foot box for a ported 12, you still need 2 cubic feet for that 12 with a passive radiator. But if you build it with a port, you're probably going to have a cubic foot worth of port. So it's going to be a 3 cubic gross. So the gross is smaller, but the net is still the same. Does that make sense? Because it's still a base reflex box. Like, the passive radiator is still, it's basically a port. It resonates just like a port. So anyway, yes. The general rule of thumb is you want 2 times as much displacement as your active sub. So if you have an 8-inch sub, and the key word there is displacement, because you can't just have like 2x cone area. If your 8 has, let's say, 20 millimeters of X-Max, you can't just slap another 8-inch or another 8-inch or 2 8-inch passive radiators in there with 10 inches of X-Max. It doesn't work like that. You need 2x displacement. So if your 8-inch sub only has 10 millimeters of X-Max, you could actually run a single 8-inch passive radiator with 20 millimeters of X-Max. Does that make sense? It's 2x displacement, which is cone area times X-Max. So technically, I mean, if you match them up, let's say your sub has 10 and your passive radiator has 10 millimeters of X-Max, then yeah, you want 2. But if your passive has more stroke than your sub, then you can get away with less cone area because you have more displacement with stroke. So 2x is a general rule of thumb. Some people will say you can get away with 1.5. I've gotten away with 1x, but it depends on how low you want to tune, because you will bottom out that passive pretty quickly. Another thing people do is like just go one size up. Like if you have an 8-inch sub, just go to a 10-inch passive, or a 10-inch sub, go to a 12-inch passive. But if you don't have enough stroke, you can bottom those out pretty quickly too. But passives, man, they're awesome. So to wrap that up, passive radiators are not a sealed box thing. It's a ported box, and you want 2 times displacement, not just cone area, but displacement, because stroke is important too. So I went on a little field trip, and they had like a little bubble exhibit, and I thought this was funny. I'll show you the video that I sent Kip Litzy right now. And I said, bruh, why didn't this make a square bubble? And he sent back, fluid dynamics and pressure equalization. I'm assuming he thought I was serious. I'm just kidding, Kev. It's a square woofer and a square sound wave joke. Somebody else asked me, do you know race car mechanic shit? I mean, how long is this video going right now? To this one. This will be our last one. Let's see. Explain how ohm ratings might affect sound or performance. Is dampening factor a thing in car audio? I don't even know what that means. Jesus. We'll talk about rabbit hole. Maybe I won't even include this answer in there because yeah, we're treading into some deep water right now. Anyway, I'm gonna wrap it up here before we start getting crazy. Anyway, ask T-Fade anything. If you have a question for me, may I read it on the air? Drop it in the comments. Shoot us a message on Everyday Audios. Hit us up on Facebook, Everyday Audios, Facebook at Everyday Audios. Whatever the crap, you guys know how to find us on Facebook, or if you don't, you're banned. But shoot us a message on Facebook. Check out the $150 SPL challenge. That's it. Wrapping it up. Peace out.